And I'm live. Welcome to a writer's life, the place where you get the sights, sounds, smells, taste of a particular writer's life, where you get the truth about the writer's life. Subscribe if you haven't already. Punch the like button and tap the bell for notifications so that you don't miss out on one single exciting video. I'm coming to you a little late, 15 minutes late. Can't seem to get it straight these days. I went outside for like my I've been working all day as normal, and I went outside for like my afternoon walk. And oh my God, there's millions of people have come into town on this Halloween weekend, I guess, or whatever. It's All Saints Day and Tuesday, and it's just like people are getting out like mobbed. Like when I came here in May of 2021, you could roll a bowling ball down the street and not hit anybody. And then last November when I was here, it was a little more crowded, but not nearly as bad as it is now. It's like I was like, oh my God, I have to like turn around and like just come back. It was a nightmare. But that's good. I'm glad because the vendors need the money, and I think I feel a renewed optimism in Italy for sure. I know there's a new government, and from what my best friend here tells me, it's Meloni is the first democratically elected leader in 11 years. 11 years, can you imagine that, being from the States? But anyway, there is definitely a renewed optimism. People are like presenting themselves better. They're happier. They're nicer. Money's coming in, so things look good over here. Which gonna make me segue into. I read this. I always like to read certain blogs and whatever, and one of the blogs I read consistently is Kristine Katheryn Rusch, who's married to Dean Wesley Smith, but she's a smart cookie. She every week she comes up with a business musing, and she was her. I don't trust me. I linked to her blog below, so you can read the whole thing for yourself, and I will tell her that I linked and all that stuff. But anyway, it started with talking about how like we as writers, especially when you hit middle age or so, you got to start thinking about leaving your work to someone who's going to continue to publish it and take care of it and nurture it and water it and weed it and dust it off and the whole bit, because too many writers, when they die, they don't think about the future. They just think about, like the now. And too many writers, when they die, I need water, hang on. Their work dies with them. It just dies off, And as much as I want to be, I'm no Clive Cussler or James Patterson, whom the publisher, once those guys are dead and Clive's dead, I met Clive. The girl I was with at the time, he pinched her ass. Oh, God. Anyway, dirty old man. Nice guy, though. Nice guy. When I won the Thriller Award. Anyway, love his books. Anyway, what was I going to say? Anyway, like Clive's work is living on because someone else is writing it for him. The publisher hired another writer, and blah blah blah. The Spencer series and the other series that Robert B. Parker did continue because other writers have been assigned with taking them over. I would imagine the same thing will happen with Patterson. He's already got a team of writers who writes his work, so so they're all set. But anyway, that's the kind of thing you have to do. So I know for me, I'm going to set up a trust with my lawyer so that my kids can reap the benefits of this and their kids can reap the benefit of it, blah, 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 blah. I may have one of my sons take over the business, or I may instead, in order to avoid maybe conflict or something like that, maybe have a separate party actually take over the business, but they reap the benefits, the financial benefits. I don't really know because I haven't even started on the process yet, but it's time I started on the process for sure. I remember in the construction business, when my father was about my age, even a little younger, like his lawyer telling him, he's like, Dick, you got to start making your transition plans now. You got to do it because, anything can happen, and then suddenly like the state is taking half of everything and everything's a mess. And the kids are going to end up in court and anyway. But there was something else that was very interesting in Kristine's article, and she was talking about one writer who recently died. I don't recognize the name of the writer, so I'm not even going to begin to tell you who it is. But apparently he was pretty famous in at least his genre, and I'm assuming it's sci-fi. I could be absolutely wrong about that, but that's what I'm assuming. And I'm guessing it might have been English. I don't know. But anyway, he died. I think he was in his late 70s or something like that. But Kristine all right, this is getting confusing. In Kristine's blog, she's linking to yet another blog about this. And the person who is writing this blog, again, I don't know who it is. I've never heard of him, but he's 77 years old and also a writer. But he said all he ever wanted out of his writing life was cash, of course, right? You want to get paid for your work. Readers and or readership, right? And critical acclaim, which comes in the form of awards. I myself I've achieved all three of those things. Sometimes I've made tons of money, and I have a decent readership. I don't have a huge one. I don't have a small one. I have a decent readership, keeps me going. And it's growing, slow, reader by reader by reader. And I've won a bunch of major awards. Okay, so good. Oh, good. People are chiming in. So I'll get to everybody after I do my stupid spiel. But there's a fourth thing that some people just can't go without, and that is the F word, fame. I recall, I've talked about this before. I recall a friend of mine, writer friend of mine, who's like, I want to be famous. I want to be like Truman Capote and all those guys. And I was like, hey, be careful what you wish for. And, but the person the writer who recently died, everybody was assuming that he was like rich and famous. He was constantly flying to the UK, constantly buying expensive gifts like whiskey for his friends. And he just lived, I guess, just this lifestyle. You would just assume, oh, this guy's like, not only has he made it as a writer and a very good writer, but he must be, he's like famous and all this sort of stuff. Anyway, when he died, his wife had to declare bankruptcy. He was broke. Not only was he broke, he owed everybody money. Not an unusual situation for a writer at all. Scott Fitzgerald died with like $40 in the bank. Hemingway, up until The Old Man and the Sea, had to like borrow money from his agent and from his publisher rather. But when The Old Man and the Sea hit, then he became like multimillionaire, which was good for him. But it happens more often than you think. A friend of mine, a sibling of his who is well published, was living in New York, and you would think, wow, she must be doing great and all this sort of thing. And it turned out like broker than hell, hadn't paid her taxes and who knows how long, and he had to take care of it. And so it's like this image of fame that people try to portray, and that costs money. It really costs money because you got to be like man or woman about town. You got to be being seen. You got to be in exotic places. And I do all of these things, but I'm not putting myself into debt doing it. If I can't afford to go somewhere I want to go or buy something I don't want to buy, I ain't going to do it. It's dollars and cents because I'm a businessman too. But the sad thing about this thing is, again, it's confusing. the writer who wrote the blog about the guy who died is 77 years old, and he said, "I'm quitting writing. Like, I'm done. I can't make any money off of it. I'm 77 years old. It just isn't worth it anymore." Now, I would hate to have that happen to me or anybody else, So I guess the whole point of this stupid ass YouTube thing is that you need to plan for the future, and you need to plan for it now. NOW now. Because you don't want to die and just be broke. Or you could be like, fuck it, I'm going to die and I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave a bunch of bills. There's that side too. I think it's Michael Saylor. He's a hero of mine. He's a micro strategies guy, and he's a billionaire, and he's a big Bitcoin guy. And he's like, you know what? Borrow money to buy Bitcoin. And he's like, debt is good. Die with debt. So, like, I don't know. There's there's two sides, I guess. But you got to do what works for you. All right. I hope all this makes sense. It'll make much more sense when you read Katheryn's blog, which is right there below. Who's this? Shirley. Yes, Michael Connolly was a journalist. Okay. You're answering a question from a while ago. Thank you. Your apartment and city are beautiful. Glad you found a gym. Thank you, Shirley. I am too. I went today. Feeling all sorts of buff. Thanks for the Florence holiday information. Shirley, you in town? Let me know if you're in town. Oh, wait, this is Shirley, my friend. Okay. Yes. Yes, trusts are important. Trusts are very important. I'm going to get on that when I get home in December. The problem is, the hard part of this whole thing is choosing somebody to take care of everything. And I have one person in mind, but I went to college with him. He's a best friend, and he's my age. And I'm thinking, we're not old, right? We're not young, but we're not old. We're in the middle. Should I go with somebody who's my age, or should I go with somebody who's maybe 10 or 15 years younger? I don't know of anybody 10 or 15 years younger except my sons. So we'll have to see. Anyway, that's it for today. A rare Saturday appearance. Glad to see you, Shirley. And I will get to you guys tomorrow. All right. Anybody else has any more questions, you can always chime in later. All right. I will talk to you guys più tardi. Ciao, ciao.